Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We are with comic Sarah Hartshorne. Sarah Hartshorne, how the hell are you?
I'm good. I'm cooking. I'm good.
Yes, shakshuka. You described it to me. It sounded like a magic trick. I couldn't make that in a million years. And with the eggs, is it disgusting or no?
No, but I love eggs, so it's yeah.
So do I, but with tomato sauce and all the other stuff.
It's not really a tomato sauce. It's so hard to describe. It's more like very soft, delicious sautéed vegetables, including tomatoes.
Yeah.
And then you make a bed, and then you crack the eggs into them. It's delicious.
You make a bed, and the eggs lie in it. I love it. And we follow you online. You're doing comedy online during the quarantine, and they can find everything there at Sarah Hartshorne or Sarah B. Hartshorne.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Twitter it's Sarah Hartshorne, Instagram it's Sarah B. Hartshorne. Either way, if you search for Sarah Hartshorne,
yeah,
and then, you will find me.
You will find her, and she's making shakshuka. And and one of the questions I have is, you have an abortion. We're going to talk about abortion rights and laws today.
Yeah.
And when you told me about this, I was like, oh, that's cool. You work for an abortion rights thing, non for profit. Yeah. That's awesome. You're like, no, it's a comedy thing too. And so where can they find that online? I guess
it's
a link tree here.
I work for Abortion Access Front. We're a nonprofit organization started by Liz Winstead, who is the co-creator of The Daily Show. So she had, made The Daily Show. She'd also helped start Air America. No, not Air America. Radio America. Radio America. The thing that Rachel Maddow got her start on. Yeah, with Al Franken and everything. So she'd been doing a lot of, political comedy type stuff, and she wanted to start a nonprofit that would actually sort of, make a difference and give people direction and things to do. And so, she started Abortion Access Front after she had visited a bunch of independent abortion clinics. So what we do is we do two things. One, we help raise awareness about abortion rights by making funny videos. Like we have a TikTok. You can follow us on there. You'll see me being very dumb. I'm also on TikTok. You can follow me there. So we did that, and we sort of raise awareness about a lot of the issues that are facing independent abortion clinics. And then we also actually provide on-the-ground support to independent abortion clinics. So once a year, normally this time of year, actually, we would be touring right now, going all over the country, putting on shows and visiting independent abortion clinics and sort of bringing the community together to help lend some support, because independent abortion clinics, which just means not Planned Parenthood, basically do 65% of the abortions in America, but they obviously get, a quarter of the funding. Maybe less, and, just a lot less support in general. So we try to kind of help rally the liberal bubbles in very red states around these independent clinics to help just get them whatever they need. A lot of them are targeted by some really intense groups. There's a group called Operation Save America, which has thousands and thousands of members all across the country, and they will target clinics. They'll show up. Hundreds of people will show up to protest. So if you're trying to get an abortion in, say, Milwaukee or something, there's one clinic left, and you'll have to walk through a throng of hundreds of people, screaming at you and trying to get you to change your mind. Even a lot of times, even if you're not necessarily getting an abortion, right? Maybe you're going for just a pap smear or whatever. Or a lot of times they're the only places, in a lot of these areas where trans people can get healthcare, can get their hormones, or even just regular healthcare. It can be really helpful for them to go to an abortion clinic, because the doctors are a lot more likely to have knowledge of the health issues that are facing them, whether it's related to their transition or not. So
instead of putting it on some thinking that, this transgendered person is obviously confused. I'm not going to put him or her on hormones. I'm going to send this person to counseling so that they do not transition ever. Right.
Well, yeah. Or, whatever it is, it can also just be hard, whether you're passing or not, right? If you are passing means if you are a trans man and people wouldn't necessarily know that you were trans, they would just think you were maybe a cis man. like I've heard a lot of stories about trans people who are passing who will go to the doctor and have to be like, oh no, that is not an issue that is facing me. I do not have a penis, or I do not have a vagina, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So especially like trans men, they still are dealing with a lot of the issues that come with a body that was born female. So abortion clinics provide a lot of that care, and it's just like a compassionate, understanding place.
Yeah.
That can be really helpful.
Good. Yeah, I think there's only a couple of those in New York City, or at least those that are cheaper. I think a couple of those clinics, they have a certain, I forgot the name, but I think there's one in Harlem, and then there's one down there by Washington Square Park. But yeah, you really need somebody understanding of these issues, and so it's good. Yeah, a lot of these places, it's nice. Like when Big Mouth did that educational episode, I think they did it for Planned Parenthood, which is probably, which is not what you're talking about, but just educating people that they do much more than that. And so maybe the throngs of people wishing these poor men and women death is not the way to go.
Well, right. And it's just like, it's not, abortion is healthcare. Because that's also the thing. Like, people do love to stress that Planned Parenthood does more than abortions. And that's absolutely true. And that healthcare is absolutely very important. Like that is worth like protecting and being passionate about. But the thing is like, even if all Planned Parenthood did was abortions, that's still healthcare. That's still important, right? That's still something that like shouldn't be demonized. And we have such like, there's so much policing going on of cis or of like people with uteruses. I almost said cis women, but obviously that's not true. But like of people with uteruses and of our bodies, like it's really it comes at every level. And so I think it's important to just be like, people, so a lot of people say like, nobody likes abortion. I love abortion. Abortion's great. Like, I love abortion providers. I'm for it,
Yeah, as long as it's legal, these people shouldn't be facing threats when they go in the door. Like, these threats should not be made more legal than the actually legal abortion that's going on inside. And all these laws, they're trying to nibble away, given the conservative, now that Trump got a justice or two on the court, they are testing these things, even bringing that Louisiana case up, which lost because it was exactly the same case
it was exactly
as the Texas case. Yeah, but so in doing so,
if you're listening and you don't know, the Supreme Court just ruled on a case that would have forced abortion clinics to have admitting privileges to local hospitals, which just means that like, basically a local hospital would have to agree to see their patients if there was an emergency, which makes no sense because for a million reasons. But number one, if there is an emergency and someone goes to the emergency room is going to see them. Like, that's how that works. Right. But the other reason that it's bullshit is that it's very hard for abortion clinics to find a hospital that will admit them, especially, in a more conservative state, because also like, something like, I don't know, 20 to 40% of all hospitals in a given state are Catholic and will not provide reproductive health care across the board if it does go against their beliefs. So it was an especially bullshit case because the Supreme Court had ruled on a literally identical case out of Texas in, I can't remember what year now. I really should.
Recently.
But yeah, 2016 maybe. I'm not sure. About four years, a while ago is the point.
And it can't unduly burden a constitutional right. And so I think it had the net effect of creating exactly one abortion, hospital in Louisiana or something. But there already was.
It was one clinic, and they're amazing. They're great. And they did continue to provide care while facing this lawsuit. But the reason this lawsuit was also so dangerous is that it slightly differed from the Texas case in that they also wanted to make it illegal for clinics to sue on patients' behalf, which would mean that if there was a patient who was not able to receive an abortion or who was being blocked from receiving an abortion, they would have to take on that legal burden themselves. The financial cost, the time, all of those commitments would be placed on the patients.
Wow.
That's another reason that we were super nervous. And one of those reasons why we were waiting for the decision to come down, because it was one of those where like, it could have seemed like a win because the hospitals didn't have to have admitting privileges. But then if they'd like ruled that clinics weren't allowed to to sue on behalf of their patients. That's also bullshit because it would have affected other types of healthcare, right? Like if there was, I can't think of a good example, but like, well, okay, Black women are something like 284 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women, regardless of their income or education level or anything. And so if a patient felt like they weren't receiving care, they were receiving biased care, they would have, like, all of the burden of proving that legally would be placed on the patient themselves. They couldn't get help from like a health clinic or like, right, like if they had, if they were going to like a small independent women's health clinic and then got mistreated at a hospital, like, so it had bigger ramifications. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's a little bit inside baseball.
Oh yeah, but it kind of gave the court an excuse to write out a roadmap for how to overturn Roe versus Wade in the future. Like, didn't they write the opinion in such a way that gave, it gave Republicans, all right, well, if we want to overturn it, here's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, well, and everyone was all upset because like, one thing that Kavanaugh wouldn't do when he was being confirmed, they kept being like, you think that Brown versus the Board of Education is great, right? And he kept sort of being like, yeah, it's fine. It's like, okay, he would like hem and haw, and he wouldn't just be like, yes, I like that ruling. Like, right. And a lot of people think that the reason that he didn't do that, and the reason a lot of conservative justices wouldn't do that, is because they didn't want to set a precedent of saying like, I support prior rulings of the Supreme Court, because they wanted it to be easier to overturn Roe v. Wade. But then luckily, and Kavanaugh did dissent on this case. He wanted hospitals to have admitting privileges because he's a dick and the literal worst. His dissent is so petty. I read it and I was like, it's like, if you read it, he sounds, he is a frat bro. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I really tried not to like hear it in his voice because I was like, Sarah, like, be open-minded. Maybe it's not the worst. It was the worst. Anyways, that's all.
I love that though. I read it like a frat bro. You should do that as sketch comedy, like put out a sketch for a abortion access front where you are reading that dissent as frat bro.
I was like,
Justice Kavanaugh.
So like these women, like, they want like abortions, and it's like, what? Like, just have a good time, bro. Like, just like be chill. That's basically his policy. It's like, just be chill. Like, get me a beer. Like, when do we get a beer though?
But I love the fact that he probably said, oh, we shouldn't treat precedent so deferentially. But of course, he's going to use the opposite argument in any other opinion that he cares about.
100%. And I really like reading the dissents on any case, like of either side. Like, I love Sotomayor wrote a dissent on a case recently that was about immigration law, and it was really beautiful. It's really interesting to see. I feel like dissents is where Supreme Court's justices like tend to really show who they are, right? Because if they're agreeing, a lot of times it's more likely to have been written by a clerk because they're like, yeah, I agree, whatever. But if they dissent, then that's them being like, these are my opinions and I really have them. And it tends to just be where they like really shine and show their asses.
Because even
whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
In approving, sometimes they're only approving in part anyway. It's like, I'm voting with a majority, but I'm really only voting on this limited issue or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But then she can go all journal, Sotomayor. Have you read, what's his name? Who's the black justice? What's his name? The dude, conservative dude.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas.
He's always in the dissent. Does he write good dissents? Because he doesn't talk about that. Does it just write good dissents? Like, are they well written? I know he dissents all the time.
I don't know. I have only read one, and it was like years ago, and I was very annoyed at the time, so I probably read it in a stupid voice. You know what I mean? Like, I was mad enough that I was like, oh, I'm Clarence Thomas, and this is what I think. Like, that's how I read it in my head, so I don't know.
Which is, that's a constitutional right as well, as reading dissents in stupid voices.
100%. Yeah.
And what other stuff is making its way into your comedy? Like, I know your videos could be on Abortion Front, which is an Instagram handle and has 14,000 followers. So if I'm seeing you there, kind of what are you, what sketch videos that are taking the piss out of abortion, or I guess pro-lifers, what's making it on there?
Well, actually, right now, we just finished up a big week of actions where we were targeting the group I mentioned earlier, Operation Save America. which I keep accidentally calling Operation Save Abortion. And I'm like, no, that's literally the opposite of what they want to do. I got to stop calling them that.
Yeah, you're doing their job for them. You're making it easy.
I'm like, that's better. You guys should do that. Operation Save Abortion. Come on. No. So, but they're this huge group. And the reason that we were sort of like going after them a little bit is that they are very influential. And it's like, when you hear about like I know one thing that a lot of people hear about is like, oh, you know, it's important to like pull Biden to the left, right? And it's like, that's what Bernie's doing. And like Bernie's base is going to like pull Biden to the left. These are like the exact opposite of that. They are the people that are pulling Trump to the right. They are his most virulent, crazy, like base. They really like him. And they are the ones that are like just pulling all of the GOP to the right. They do lobby a lot. And they also like have members who are elected officials. So, and they do a lot of like campaigning for those elected officials. And so it's like, that's that base. And we just kind of wanted to draw attention to that, to be like, this is who your city councilor is listening to if you live in these states. Cool. And so this is why it's so important to like make your voice heard if you disagree with them. So that was sort of the thrust of what we were doing. And, you know, so a lot of our videos are literally just us like lip syncing to their videos because they are so banana pants. I can't even tell you. Like,
is that this pro-lifers have a lot to say video? Is that you? Are you blind in that video?
Oh yeah, that's me. No, that's just me pointing out that pro-lifers are like, all lives matter. Love the unborn. Kids in cages? Who cares? What? Yeah, Black lives matter? No, I don't think so. And it's like, what are you? Come on now.
Is that doing well on TikTok? I would think I would think it does well. Yeah,
it is doing well. Yeah, we really love TikTok. It's so funny. It's really great. It's sort of taken off. There's such a great like liberal activist core group of people on TikTok. It really like gives me hope for the future because I see these kids like just really educating themselves. And I love TikTok. Like I've learned so much about like, I don't know, what it's like to live as a handicapped person in America, what it's like to be an Indigenous person in America. I've learned a ton about Indigenous culture. Like I was so surprised. I hated the app so much. I was like, this is stupid, but I would still spend hours on it. And I was like, oh, it's so stupid, but it's so addicting. But then slowly, like your For You page, it really learns what you like and what you will enjoy really fast. And so it started showing me like more activist stuff, you know, and really like great educational stuff. And then I got very into zookeeper TikTok, which is where I live right now. It's just like zookeepers, because they're bored during the quarantine. No one can go to zoos, so they just make videos with the animals. Yes. And there's also aquarium TikTok. And I tell you what, Black, gay, aquarium, and zoo TikTok is the place to be. It is my favorite place. I have several crushes on aquarium employees and zookeepers who are these hot freaking lesbians.
Yes.
I'm obsessed. And it's so niche because it really does. You get into these, it's like, people joke about it on the app. People are like, oh yeah, this is like alt witch TikTok. There's apparently frog TikTok, which I have not seen, but apparently it exists. And it's so funny. It's the weirdest app. It truly is a mystery. Like it is the confusing Google Translate of apps, but I love it.
Well, we're going to check all that out. It sounds like, so you're Sarah Hartshorne even at TikTok, or are you Sarah B. Hartshorne?
I think so. Yeah, either Sarah Hartshorne or Sarah B. Hartshorne. If I'm not Sarah Hartshorne, it's only because someone else was.
Some less funny. Yeah, less funny person. But check out her videos because then your For You page is going to be populated with hilarity. Sarah Hartshorne, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. What great timing. My shakshuka is done.